Have you ever noticed that we buy more things than ever before, yet somehow own less? Think about your average month. You pay for music, you pay for movies, you pay for games, you pay for cloud storage, maybe you pay for AI tools, maybe you pay for software. And every single month, money leaves your account. But if you stopped paying tomorrow, how much of that stuff would actually still be yours? Probably not much. That's kind of weird when you think about it, because ownership used to be one of the most normal parts of life. You bought something, it became yours. End of story. But somewhere along the way, that changed. And the strange part is that almost nobody talks about it. Nobody announced it, nobody voted for it, nobody woke up one morning and decided ownership was outdated. It just slowly faded into the background. One subscription at a time, one app at a time, one service at a time. And now we've reached a point where millions of people spend hundreds of dollars every year on things they technically don't own. What's even stranger is that most of us seem completely okay with it. In fact, many people actually prefer it. Because the truth is, we didn't lose ownership by accident. We traded it away. And we got something in return. Convenience. A lot of convenience. The question is whether that trade was actually worth it. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to a time that wasn't even that long ago. A time when ownership wasn't something people thought about, because it was simply the default.
Not that long ago, owning things was just how the world worked. If you wanted music, you bought a CD. If you wanted a movie, you bought a DVD. If you wanted a game, you went to a store and bought a physical copy. And once you bought it, it was yours. Forever. You could lend it to a friend, sell it, trade it, put it on a shelf, forget about it for 10 years. And when you came back, it would still be there. The same thing was true for books, software, movies, pretty much everything. Ownership gave people freedom. If you finished a game and got bored, you could sell it and get some of your money back. If your friend wanted to try it, you could lend it to them. You didn't need permission from a company. You didn't need an internet connection. You didn't need a monthly subscription. You simply owned it. Looking back, it almost feels obvious, but at the time, nobody really appreciated how valuable that was, because nobody imagined a future where ownership would start disappearing. Then, the internet got faster. Streaming became possible. Cloud services became popular. And companies realized something incredibly important. Most people don't actually care about ownership. What they care about is access. People don't want a shelf full of CDs. They want to hear their favorite song right now. They don't want hundreds of DVDs. They want something to watch tonight. And once companies figured that out, everything changed. Because access turned out to be one of the most profitable business models ever created. The subscription model didn't take over because companies forced people to use it. It took over because people loved it. Think about Netflix. Before streaming existed, watching movies wasn't always convenient. You had to buy DVDs, rent them, wait for them, store them. Now you open an app and instantly have thousands of movies available. That's hard to compete with. The same thing happened with music. Spotify gave people access to more songs than they could ever listen to in a lifetime. For a small monthly fee, millions of tracks became available instantly. No downloads, no CDs, no storage problems, just access. And consumers loved it. Companies loved it even more, because subscriptions solved a problem businesses had always faced: uncertainty. When someone buys a product once, that's the end of the relationship. A subscription keeps generating revenue month after month. Investors love predictable income. Businesses love predictable income. Everybody on the corporate side loves predictable income. So subscriptions started spreading everywhere. Movies, music, gaming, software, cloud storage, fitness apps, productivity tools, even AI. The subscription economy wasn't just growing, it was taking over.
And if there was one group that noticed this shift before almost anyone else, it was gamers.
Gaming is one of the best examples of how ownership quietly changed. Years ago, buying a game was simple. You bought a physical copy, you owned it. You could play it whenever you wanted. You could lend it to a friend, you could sell it later. Now things are different. Many games are digital. They're connected to accounts, they're tied to online platforms. Sometimes they're even tied to servers that can shut down. And that's where things get interesting. Because what happens when a game relies on servers that no longer exist? What happens when a digital storefront removes a title? What happens when access disappears? Suddenly, ownership starts looking a lot less permanent. The same thing happened in movies and television. People stopped building collections. Streaming replaced ownership. And sports fans experienced something similar. Watching your favorite team used to be relatively straightforward. Now, games can be scattered across multiple subscriptions and platforms. One subscription isn't enough. Sometimes two aren't enough. Sometimes three aren't enough. The pattern is always the same. Less ownership, more access. And that raises an important question. If consumers love convenience and companies love subscriptions, who benefits the most from this new system? The answer is pretty obvious. The companies do. And that's exactly why this trend keeps expanding. If you're a company, subscriptions are almost the perfect business model. Imagine selling someone a product once. Now imagine selling access to that product every month for years. Which option sounds better? That's why investors get excited about recurring revenue. It's predictable, stable, reliable. Companies know roughly how much money is coming in every month. That makes planning easier, growth easier, and profits easier. But there's another advantage. Subscriptions create lock-in. The longer you stay inside an ecosystem, the harder it becomes to leave. Think about all the services you use. Your playlists, your files, your saved content, your game libraries, your photos, your subscriptions. Over time, these platforms become part of your life, and leaving becomes inconvenient. That's incredibly valuable for businesses. The result is a system where companies aren't just selling products anymore. They're building ongoing relationships that generate revenue month after month, year after year. And while there are obvious benefits, there's also a downside that many people don't notice until much later. Because convenience isn't free. It always comes with a cost. The biggest downside isn't necessarily the money, it's dependency. When everything is based on access, you're relying on someone else's platform, someone else's servers, someone else's rules. And those rules can change. Prices can increase, features can disappear, services can shut down, access can be removed. That's the trade-off we made. We gained convenience, but we lost a certain level of control. And the trend doesn't seem to be slowing down. AI tools or subscriptions, cloud gaming is growing, smart home services increasingly rely on subscriptions. Even cars are experimenting with software-based features that can be activated or deactivated. The future seems to be moving toward access rather than ownership. Whether that's good or bad depends on who you ask. Some people argue that ownership is outdated. Why own something when access is easier? Others believe we're giving up too much control in exchange for convenience. Maybe both sides are right. But one thing is certain. The world has changed. Not through some massive event, not through some dramatic announcement, but through thousands of tiny decisions made over many years. A subscription here, a streaming service there, a digital purchase somewhere else. Each one seemed harmless on its own. Together, they transformed the way we think about ownership. Maybe ownership didn't disappear overnight. Maybe it wasn't taken from us. Maybe we traded it away, one monthly payment at a time. And maybe that's why so few people noticed. Because the entire time, it felt like we were gaining something, when in reality, we were also giving something up.